Hey Ramsey, so why are you looking to move from your current company? A raise. Oh, okay. What's up, SE family? So you applied to a job, you put on your resume out there into the ether, and a recruiter calls you back. And now they want to schedule some interviews for you. Here are the 5 things that you should do to prepare for those interviews. The first thing you need to do before you hang up the phone with the recruiter, who may or may not have all the information, is ask who you will be interviewing with. And this kind of happens every time you're going to interview someone in the interview cycle. You're going to initially interview with the hiring manager. You need to know who the hiring manager is. You need to know their name, not just the hiring manager. Get a name and ask for specifics about the interview. They may or may not know it, but they also can give you tips at the same time to figure out who you're talking to and what they're going to be interested in knowing about you. What I like to do while I'm getting the name is actually type it into LinkedIn right away in case there's a typo, because not all names are easily spelled. Like, take my name, for example. No one figures out how to spell Ramsey Marjaba. Everybody spells it with a S-E-Y instead of a Z-I, which is the proper way of writing Ramsey. But now you can go on LinkedIn and find out information about it. Initially, early on in my career, I would feel shy about checking out someone on LinkedIn because I would look as one of the people who saw their profile. Now I think of it as a positive thing. It is being proactive to actually go look at their profile before an interview. You would do the same thing before going to a customer meeting, so why not do it at an interview? And when you're looking at their profile, you can come up with some discussion points that you'd want to ask them. You can tell how long they've been there. Have they been there for 10 years? Why have they been there for 10 years? These are the questions that pop into my mind, and while I'm preparing for the interview, that I will get the chance to ask the interviewer. So how long have they been there? Why? Do they like it? Obviously, if they don't like it, they would have left, or maybe they're stuck there for other reason, golden handcuffs, for example. Just try to figure out what questions you could be asking during the interview. Also, you can check their activities and posts. If you go on my profile, you'll know exactly how I think and why I think it, because everything is out there. Not everybody is as active as me, but you can see some of the posts, what they like, what they don't like, the comments that they made on other posts. So go through that, take some time to look through that. It's not stalking, it's preparing. Now, if you go on their Facebook page, that might be considered stalking. Other people might disagree, but I don't like to go on personal pages. I might go on Twitter and LinkedIn, and that's the extent. I would not go on Facebook and Instagram because I feel like these are more personal than anything else. Depends on how they use it, but for personal people who don't have an online presence, it's just, for me, it's a little bit outside of what I want to look at. The second thing that you need to do is check out their website. Most companies have freebies, especially with SaaS today. Most companies, you can go on their website and download a free version of whatever software that they have, or create a free account and try it out for 30 days. You can play around with it and see how powerful it is, see how complicated it is. And I actually had a conversation with a manager from a big company. We were talking about interviewing for a specific company, and we talked about downloading their freebie and using it. She said she is negatively surprised at how many people don't go through the effort of doing that. It's a small thing, and most software is not complicated. Also, most companies have the online courses to show you the basics of how to use that product. So it's not just you fumbling around. You can actually get some learning out of it, and that will help you in answering questions by the interviewers, because some of it will be technical and some of it will not be. But even if it's not technical, you can still talk about what you've done to prepare for the interview, which will give them an idea of what you would prepare to do for a customer meeting. If there aren't any online courses for that specific company on their website, go check out O'Reilly Learning, go check out Pluralsight. They might have more information. And if they don't have any more information, you can always go on YouTube, because there's almost everything on YouTube. It's just not organized. You're gonna have to go through the effort of organizing what they are talking about. Number 3, prepare some questions. Throughout your research that you've done, through going on their LinkedIn, downloading the product, you can come up with a lot of questions. And I mentioned in one of the podcasts that we did recently, the top 10 uncommon mistakes for interviews, is that we should be asking questions, but also we shouldn't be waiting till the end of the call to ask questions. So figure out how you can integrate them into the conversation with the interviewer. Some of the questions we already talked about. How do you like it there? If people want to sell you on it, they will sell you on it. If people don't like it, you can generally tell. And most SEs are fairly honest about the places that they work. And they spin it in a positive way, but they will also give you hints of what about the bad things that happen in that place. How is it working with your account managers? How often do you hit your quota? Because when you're doing the interview, you're interviewing them. You need to know if they're giving reasonable quotas and if you're going to make the money that they're going to promise you that you're going to make. All this you're preparing ahead of time. The fourth thing you need to do is prepare stories. They're going to ask you behavioral questions. They're going to ask you, how did you win this deal? How did you speed up the cycle for this deal? What's the greatest opportunity that you've worked on? How have you dealt with a bad customer? You need to prepare stories for those. It's very hard to, some people can do it. Some people can come up with stories on the spot. I find it very hard to come up with stories on the spot. I have to have them prepared. And I don't have to prepare a million stories. I can prepare 2 or 3 and use them in different ways when they're asking me the question. For example, tell me about a time where you've shown proactiveness in something or another. Well, my story would be, I didn't know what I was doing. I tried to talk to a few people. I still didn't figure out as a sales engineer what I should be doing. So I proactively started a podcast where I can have discussions with a greater audience, a lot more SEs, so I can get the best value out of them. I can pull out their best practices and use it in my day-to-day practice. Or they can ask me a question like, tell me about a time where you had to learn something new and become very efficient at it and be able to demo it for the customer. I can tell them about the fact that because I didn't know what I was doing, I had to start a podcast so I can meet up with more SEs. In the process of starting the podcast, I had to create a website, which I've never done before. But I was able to create a website from scratch, and now it's public for everyone to see. So there was a lot of pressure in doing it right, and there was a lot of pressure in doing it quickly so I can actually launch my podcast. Otherwise, I would be waiting forever to launch my podcast. So it's the same story, just told in different ways. And the last thing we need to do is understand what each specific interviewer wants. And that's kind of the question that you ask the recruiter early on, whenever they're setting you up with another interviewer. In general, hiring managers want assets, not liabilities. They want to be able to let you go and you can do your thing. They're not going to need to interfere. They're not going to need to train you a lot more than normal or than average. They just want someone who is reliable and they can do their job. Teammates don't want a burden. They don't want to have to come and do the demo for you. They don't want to answer the same question 10 times. They don't want someone who's an egomaniac who will take credit for everything. They want a team player mainly, at least from what I've seen. And they need someone to be able to talk to, work with. You don't have to be best buds with them, but you don't want them to hate you either. And then depending on the salesperson, they may want a gopher, in which case you don't want that job, or they may want a partner, someone that they can rely on, someone if the promises the customer, I'm going to give you this information by the end of the day tomorrow, they will send that information by the end of the day tomorrow. Nothing will slip through the cracks. They don't want to have to remind them 1,000 times to do it. That is a good salesperson. That's someone you want to work with, at least from an SE, AE relationship. Not necessarily from a closing perspective, but you'll never know that until you actually show up. And then you have the VP of Sales Engineering or the VP of Sales. They just want to get a feel for you, understand if you know what the position is, if you like to make money, because that's something that seems to be very important for salespeople, making money. After all, their commission is based on selling. So the more you sell, the more they make money and the more you make money. So they're happy about that. They want someone who's entrepreneurial in a sense, who is independent, who's proactive and a go-getter. And if you can figure that out ahead of time, which I just mentioned them mostly, so you can probably understand. But if you have an idea, a theory of what they want, you can tailor your answers to fit their needs. And when you're on the call, you can test your theories. You can understand, is that actually what they want? Because if that's not what they want, you might have to change the way you answer questions. So these are the 5 things that you need to do to prepare for a demo. If you like this, if you think it will be useful for one person that you know, make sure you share that with them hit the like button, subscribe button, a button, all buttons. Click any button, just not the dislike button. Anyways, I will see you guys next time.